so shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him.
There should be no fear. We are protected, and we will always be protected. We will be protected by the great men and women of our military and law enforcement. And most importantly, we will be protected by God.
Hope you're having a great week as we get into more amazing moves by our leadership. Draining the swamp is physically happening. The Dems push for illegal criminals in. All of this is backfiring. RINOs are exposed and will be primaried. Italy is moving to the right without fear. RFK Jr. is making big moves, and more help for our children is underway. It has been just a great week, folks. So much to get excited about. Let's start with this.
First, simmer down. I want to thank Commissioner Kavanaugh and Chief Hodgins for that.
Just remember that Letitia James got booed at the firefighter ceremony a while back, and just know that the wake up is happening everywhere. Jerome Powell's in big trouble with the Fed, and many of the media trying to play protection and block for him.
Of Jerome Powell cannot come fast enough. He says he won't leave, even if you ask him to.
Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there. But I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast. Believe me.
If I want him out, he'll be out real fast, believe me. President Trump said the ECB is expected to cut interest rates for the 7th time, and yet, too late. Jerome Powell, that's what he called him. Quote, too late, Jerome Powell of the Fed, who is always too late and wrong. Yesterday issued a report which was another and typical complete mess. Oil prices are down, groceries, even eggs are down. And the USA is getting rich on tariffs. Too late. Should have lowered interest rates like the ECB long ago. But he should certainly lower them now. Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. You know what's really interesting about that drop that President Trump gave us? One that we continue to enjoy day in and day out. He posted this at the time of 6/12. 6/12 just happens to say, out of all the things that he could say, he didn't post it at 6:13 or 14. He posted it at 6/12. It says Council on Foreign Relations. It's got a pyramid on both sides. That's the kind of way I look at it. Well, just so turns out that Jerome H. Powell had conversation with him, the Council on Foreign Relations. He discussed the challenges facing the U.S. economy and policies of the U.S. Federal Reserve. Welcome to today's Council on Foreign Relations. Notable council members, the 16th chair of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, connected to that group. course, it had 879 on the numbers of the drop. Set the stage. POTUS, do you believe? Buckle up. More and more is coming. And so when all this is playing out, then, of course, you got to go to CNBC, find out what the mainstream media is doing, how they're playing cover. Well, they got to bring the old Elizabeth Warren into the program to give us her take because so many people trust her.
Start on Powell. Sure. Just as a reminder, so Congress gives the Fed the authority. Can the president terminate, not that he said he's going to do this, but can he terminate Powell's chairmanship earlier than his ended term?
No.
Under no circumstance?
Nope.
So that's not a concern for you?
Does it? Well, I thought we were talking about legally, right? But this is a president who has shown himself willing to violate laws every place he goes, including willing to violate the Constitution of the United States.
Oh, so the lawbreaker, Senator Elizabeth Warren, the one who they call Pocahontas, who lied about her background, wants to come out and call President Trump this guy who breaks the laws.
So that obviously puts things a little more in play than we ever would have guessed. But I really want to make a pitch here for a second about the importance of Powell staying in his job. Look.
Tell us why it's important. Tell us what they told you to memorize and tell all the world.
And it's unusual coming from you. You're very critical of him.
I have tangled with him on a regular basis about both regulations and interest rates. But understand this. If Chairman Powell can be fired by the President of the United States, it will crash the markets in the United States.
Oh, she seems like she knows so much. Where's the real crash happening? Oh, yeah. The D.C. swamp getting drained. Trump's latest move is bigger than you think, says Rod Martin. He just signed an order they could empty Washington, D.C. of federal agencies. Here's why it matters. Let's go through this. For decades, the D.C. swamp has forced federal agencies to stay in expensive downtown offices. Trump destroyed that system with one signature. The implications are massive. Get this, the federal buildings are costing taxpayers $17 billion in maintenance alone. Interesting number. Many buildings are worth less than what we're paying to maintain them. This is peak government waste. Here's the real bombshell. Cost is only part of it. When Trump moved a federal agency to the Midwest in his first term, over 90% of the staff quit. Now, that's a creative way to get rid of the deep staters. Then Trump can hire his own people or not replace them at all. Trump's orders lets the agencies move anywhere in America's 3.8 million square miles. No more going native by going to D.C. No more incestuous Democrat culture. The swamp is losing its grip. I think the IRS would do just great in Nome, Alaska. Look at these numbers. 363 meters square feet of space. 8,397 buildings. Oh, I think that's 363 million. I'm sorry. Million square feet of space. Got that one wrong. 2,200 plus communities, all managed by bureaucrats in D.C. until now. And it's not just the D.C. offices. Offices around the country are now free to move too. Already seeing results. Idaho, $18.6 million saved. Massachusetts, $11.6 million saved. California, $9.8 million saved. And this is just the beginning. Think about it. Federal agencies will finally be closer to the people they serve, not D.C. lobbyists and career bureaucrats. The swamp creatures will stay behind and try to be lobbyists. Trump will replace them with real Americans. This is coming just as we hear that over 20,000 IRS agents have taken Trump's new buyout offer. This isn't just about saving money. It's about taking power back from D.C. and giving it to the American people. The massive IRS exodus, remember? The 20,000 took flight. It's from Rod Martin report. Pretty amazing. Also, you'll find this amazing. Well, folks, if you heard of a gut check in the Marine Corps or military, it's to check to see if you've got good abs. But, sometimes we need one physically, a real gut healing. I've been experiencing wonderful results with my gut and overall health with Kimchi One. We have a war going on in our gut, and we can strengthen that immune system there. 70 to 80% of the immune system is actually stored in your gut. Probiotic-rich kimchi can help you fight bacterial infections, viruses, common illnesses, and serious chronic conditions like irritable bowel syndrome, skin conditions like eczema, urinary tract infections, and yeast infections. Kimchi is full of ingredients known to stimulate healthy immune function, soothe digestive organs, nourish the gut, fight bacteria, and heal. 1 to 3 servings of kimchi a day decreases obesity and positively affects thyroid health. It also stabilizes your blood sugar. So get your Kimchi One today in the description box below. 25% off your entire order with promo code AWK. That's promo code AWK. You get up to 50% off plus free shipping when you call in to order at 888-317-9941. Get your Kimchi One today in the description box below.
Do we know if the weapon that was used was his parents' service weapon? And if so, what are the rules around storing service weapons?
Right. No, that's a good question. This weapon was a weapon that the deputy previously used. A lot of times, many agencies, mine included, when we transition to a new handgun, the officers are allowed to purchase the handgun they used prior. And correct me if I'm wrong, Sheriff, but I believe that's the case here. This was a handgun that deputy used prior to them transitioning to a new handgun, and so it was her personal handgun.
So this guy who went to Florida State University, the shooter, where they're reporting that there's at least 2 dead, 5 injured in shooting there at Florida State University, got his gun from his mother. Well, it's interesting because she basically was allowed to purchase that weapon that she owned at one time, and he just got a hold of it. This guy, Inkner, in case you guys didn't know, he actually stood for the fight against Trump. Quote, "These people are usually pretty entertaining, usually not for good reasons," Phoenix Ickner, a political science major, said. "I think it's a little too late. He's Trump, already going to be inaugurated on January 20th, and there's not really much you can do unless you outright revolt. And I don't think anyone wants that." So this guy who went around, again, going crazy against President Trump, started shooting folks on campus. And you wonder where they get all this rhetoric from. Well, if you head over to Kent State University, they have a photo of Trump's head on a pike. You're looking at it there, saying we only have to get lucky once. It's wrong and unacceptable. These schools are brainwashing and destroying the next generation. So you head on over to the Trump admin, threatening Harvard's ability to host international students. We're watching another part of the deep state slowly being exposed. The Trump administration threatened to revoke Harvard University's eligibility to host foreign students, tightening its squeeze on the school after campus leadership refused to cave in to its demands. The heightened pressure comes after the Trump administration cut $2.2 billion in grants and $60 million in contracts to the university amid a broader campaign against elite higher education institutions. Trump said earlier this week that Harvard should lose its tax-exempt status, accusing the Ivy League school of pushing politics and ideology. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem warned Harvard that its certification to enroll foreign students is contingent upon its complying with federal immigration rules. In a Wednesday letter to the university, obtained by the New York Times. The Hill, Noem announces this cancellation, right, of the $2.7 million in grants to Harvard. But we're reminded by the rubber duck. Remember, Q told us to follow Huma, H-U-M-A. A lot of us thought it meant Huma Abedin. What if it meant Harvard University Muslim alumni? Interesting. Never thought about that.
Should they have to do something for that money? So after freezing $2.2 billion in funding 48 hours ago, President Trump is now considering whether Harvard should lose its tax-exempt status, saying, quote, should this be contingent on doing what's in the public interest? Let's look at the funding for Ivy League schools real quick. For example, the federal government provides direct support for research facilities, especially
total federal funding for Ivy Leagues, fiscal year 2024, $6.4 billion of your taxpayer dollars. $6.4 billion we've been giving to these elite universities, making them look so wonderful with high-paid professors and wonderful campuses. What was the response?
Welcome back. Breaking just moments ago, Harvard's lawyers say that the university will not comply with the Trump administration's demands in a brand new letter. It reads in part, quote, Harvard is not prepared to agree to demands that go beyond the lawful authority of this or any administration. Sandra, the administration had been threatening to pull federal funding from a lot of these Ivy League schools if they didn't get their ducks in order when it comes to fighting anti-Semitism on campus. They're not bluffing. They've already pulled the funding. So Harvard's essentially saying, are they trying to call a bluff here?
Yeah. So I imagine there will be a quick response, and we'll have that for you when it happens.
These guys, the machine is in action. This whole setup is being exposed. Harvard wants total control over who they hire, who they admit, what they teach, without oversight, while taking your money. $9 billion in federal funding at stake, but Harvard thinks they're untouchable. Trump says, think again. This is what happens when elitist institutions forget who funds them. Harvard has been the breeding ground for globalist policy, woke ideology, anti-American narratives, and now they want immunity. Trump's coming for the corrupted heart of academia. No more blank checks for these indoctrinated machines. This free ride is over. They're done. We've had enough. And I think it's wonderful to finally wake up the masses to what they're up to. And if you guys remember, we had a Joe Rogan clip a while back where he was exposing that Epstein actually had an office at Harvard. Remember Epstein? What was he doing with an office there? We also remember there was some funding going on with the Wuhan lab and all the stuff just little by little falling into place for us with this great exposure happening. So speaking of exposure, remember this Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the one making the headlines, the guy that was a family man from Maryland, the illegal alien, the MS-13 member, leader, the one where Senator Van Hollen flew down and said, we're going to have lunch together. Well, they did. Pictures were taken. Nayib Bukele, the leader there, says now that he's been confirmed healthy, talking about Garcia, he gets the honor of staying in El Salvador's custody. That's what you call real trolling. Oh, man, so good.
The senator said that he was abducted. As the former leader of ICE, what do you say to him?
He wasn't abducted. He's an MS-13 gang member, classified as a terrorist that was removed from this country. So we got rid of a dangerous person, an El Salvadoran national, was returned to the country of El Salvador, so he's home. We removed him from the United States. He's a public safety threat. That's exactly what should have happened. And I'm just disgusted that any congressional representative is going to run to El Salvador at his aid. When yesterday, I read in his state, an illegal alien charged with murder was released back into the community, and not the ICE detainer wasn't honored, and ICE had to go find him in his state. In his state, the murder of Rachel Murrin yesterday. Listen to the testimony and listen to the mother on Handy last night. If you're not human, then your heart wasn't broken. It's just in his state. But rather than taking care of the constituents in his state, the victims of illegal crime in his state, he's going to run to El Salvador to protect the MS-13 terrorists. It's just disgusting.
It is disgusting. The guy wants to take care of everyone except his own people. Maryland Dem Senator the guy who went to El Salvador to demand the release of the MS-13 member, faces violations of the Logan Act. Remember, what is he really up to, folks? We talked about this. Why do they want this guy so bad? And I believe we figured it out a couple videos ago. We discussed from Truth Hammer Forever, where it looks like maybe he might have some goods on these politicians because he was hired to do some dirty deeds for him. So maybe he went down there to warn him, hey, don't you dare say a thing while you're down here, buddy. So many in the GOP are calling for the senator, Chris Van Hollen, to be charged with violations of the Logan Act. After the lawmaker traveled to El Salvador, political consultant Roger Stone wrote, why hasn't this U.S. senator been arrested for violation of the Logan Act? Well, Women for America First Executive Director Kylie Jane Kremer wrote, Senator Van Hollen should be immediately arrested upon returning to the United States from El Salvador and indicted for attempting to bring an already deported illegal alien, an MS-13 gang member, back to the United States. You know, Justice Kagan actually came in and denied emergency appeal to halt deportation of Mexican nationals claiming asylum from cartel. Kagan denies migrants' request to delay deportation, letting removal proceed without court review. FBI Director Kash Patel said the leadership in the FBI just received an update on the immigration efforts since January 20th, 2025. And as of this morning, April 17th, yesterday, over 6,000 subjects detained and arrested, 310 Tren de Aragua members, 136 MS-13 members. We have so much more to do, but thanks to the leadership of this administration and AG Pam Bondi, your hardworking FBI teams, and our regional law enforcement partners, we're making America safer every single day. Don't you just love it? We're at andweknow.com. Truth, hope, faith, and freedom, folks, at our amazing website. Hope that you check that out. It is absolutely amazing. Of course, when you enter this site, you'll see that the Celebration Cruise is still listed as a pop-up there. Join us July 13th through the 20th, 2025. We're going to have a great time together with love, a lot of hugs, a lot of tears, a lot of laughter, and more we have prepared. And many folks have chimed it up to one of the greatest trips that they've ever had in their lifetime. It is so wonderful to be among fellow patriots, folks. Hope you check it out. We're also with our partners in the andweknow.com. At the very bottom, you'll watch a video and say, you know what, I really wanted that LT Pet Club 247. Well, you just go to the bottom and you'll find it. You'll see Dr. Shockley there, EMF Protection, Parker Pastures, Hunter's Blend Coffee, Bright Core, Ascent Nutrition, New Spring Wellness, all these others there listed for you guys to look at there. And also just wanted to make sure that you knew that we have all of our gear listed for you. Shop.andweknow.com. Sweatshirts, hoodies, accessories, hats, tees, and tanks. I got this picture I thought was really special here recently. On October the 9th, 2024, tornadoes ripped through the Spanish Lakes Country Club, Club Village, senior community in Fort Pierce, Florida. The home was damaged, losing the roof, carport, and porch walls and on roof. And October 12th, a Christian church group came through, helping residents to clean up. So the my OC flag and flagpole were inside the front door as I had taken down because we were expecting Hurricane Milton. This young man found the flag, stuck the pole in the ground where his mom took this picture. The house had to be demolished, as were 150 more homes. 6 souls went home to be with the Lord that day. This is from Kathleen. Thank you so much for sending this, and I hope you guys will continue to stay in prayer for many of you out there who have experienced so much trauma. Here's more great pictures of Patriots wearing our gear.
Time ago, the Supreme Court agreed to hear oral arguments in the case about ending birthright citizenship. How confident are you that the court will rule in your favor and allow that order to end birthright citizenship to go forward?
Well, you're just telling me that for the first time. I am so happy. I think the case has been so misunderstood. That case, birthright citizenship, is about slavery. If you look at the details of it, the signings of it, everything else, that case is all about slavery. And if you view it from that standpoint, people understand it. But for some reason, lawyers don't talk about it, the news doesn't talk about it. That's not about tourists coming in and touching a piece of sand and all of a sudden they're a citizenship. They're a citizen. That is all about slavery. And even look at the dates on which it was signed. It was right at that era, right after the Civil War. And if you look at it that way, the case is an easy case to win. And I hope the lawyers talk about birthright, citizenship, and slavery.
It's amazing. President Trump seems to just have so much knowledge. He's on top of it. He's full health. His knowledge is unbelievable. The way that he handles this is just great. I mean, imagine what we've been through the past 4 years with that freak that was in office, the actor playing Biden, and just not be able to answer anything hardly at all with the press. President Trump's doing everything, and he's given them more than they can handle. Donald Trump scores the legal win over Judge Chutkan. A court has temporarily blocked a ruling from U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan regarding the funding of former President Joe Biden's climate programs. Speaking of Biden, the D.C. Court of Appeals halted the judge's Tuesday ruling that ordered Citibank to release billions of dollars in green bank grants as part of Biden's 2022 climate tax and health care bill. The court's ruling is the latest development in an ongoing fight as President Donald Trump attempts to throw out Biden's climate and energy measures and replace it with his cost-cutting and pro-coal agenda. Exposing more of these RINOs is going to be great. The RINO removal project has identified the top RINO senators, says Mike Engelman, and top RINO House members with primary dates and for the 2026 midterms. Here are the 2026 Tier 1 Senator RINOs for this RINO removal project. This RINO, in case some of you are new to this, means Republicans in name only. So the number one guy that needs to be taken out, removed with a new person, John Cornyn, out of Texas. Number 2, West Virginia, Shelley Moore Capitos needs to go. Bill Cassidy out of Louisiana. Lindsey Graham out of South Carolina. Joni Ernst out of Iowa, Susan Collins out of Maine, and Tom Tillis out of North Carolina. So good. So good. Speaking of RINOs, you guys remember old Lisa Murkowski from Alaska? She's afraid.
What do you have to say to people who are afraid? Or who represent people who are afraid? We are all afraid. Okay? Statement. But we are we're in a time and a place where I don't know. I certainly have not. I have not been here before. And I'll tell you, I'm oftentimes very anxious myself about using my voice, because retaliation is real, and that's not right. But that's what you've asked me to do, and so I'm going to use my voice to the best of my ability, and sometimes it will be viewed in a way that, well, that's pretty confrontational. And other times it's going to be using my mother's charm that I learned as a young girl.
I don't remember her having much charm. She said she uses her charm. Oh, my goodness. She's afraid that she says the wrong thing. I've never been in a place like this before. Really? You've never been in a place where you're confronted for all of your stupidity. So finally, all the guardrails are off for you. And you're being confronted for what you've done to the people. It seems like that's a way that it plays out for many. I wanted to show you this clip real quick before we move on. I missed it earlier about, Scott Jennings always seems to nail it on CNN. talking about the American left, how they fall in love with the worst people.
I see these pictures tonight and I think, boy, the party of women is really covering itself in glory tonight. I mean, I don't understand why the American left falls in love with the worst people. You've got a gang-banging, human trafficking, wife-beating illegal alien, and a United States senator in a ludicrous display of energy is in El Salvador having Mai Tais and Yahtzee. I do not get it. I do not understand why the left takes on the heroes.
The
people
part
like
of
that.
this,
I don't get it.
I think I'm not
allegedly in there somewhere.
I'm just wondering.
He is a Democrat United States senator.
I don't think this is an issue.
I see.
They can't handle it. He's telling them to their face. Gang-banging, human trafficking, wife-beating, illegal alien. And a U.S. senator goes down there to rescue him. They've lost their mind. How could you even defend that? You know, in Italy, they have a leader named Giorgia Meloni. She stuns the world.
The goal for me is to make the West great again. Okay? And I think we can do it together.
We can.
We will keep on work on that. I'm going to close. I want to say only I'm proud of sitting here as Prime Minister of an Italy that today has a very good situation despite the difficulties, a stable country, reliable country, 1 million more jobs in the...
She wants to make the West great again. Oh, my goodness. It really makes you wonder how this is going to play out. You know, the globalists are panicking. Vigilant Fox put this together for us on our visit. They're panicking as Italy's prime minister makes the stunning alliance with President Trump. So the Oval Office, before this meeting, Italian Prime Minister Meloni, she met with President Trump and his cabinet to talk trade. The media came hungry for a headline about a brewing tariff war with the European Union. But instead of posturing, Meloni delivered a masterclass in diplomacy and extended an invitation to President Trump. When a reporter tried to stir up drama, the retaliatory tariffs that the European Commission passed and then suspended, are they still on the table if you cannot make a deal with President Trump? Meloni didn't hesitate. She said, I'm sure we can make a deal. She made clear she wasn't speaking for Brussels, just trying to build bridges. I'm here to help on that. I cannot deal in the name of European Union, she said. Then came the move. My goal would be invite President Trump to pay a visit to Italy and understand if there's a possibility when he comes to organize also such a meeting with Europe. Her strategy is simple. Skip the drama, talk straight, and find common ground. She said, I think the best way is that we simply speak frankly about the needs that every one of us has and find ourselves in the middle of, middle for, that's useful for all. And when asked about our politics, somebody calls me such a Western nationalism. I don't know if it is the right words, but I'm sure that together we are stronger. Then she closed with a message loud and clear. And I have to find a way. I'm here to find the best way to make us both stronger on both sides of the Atlantic. After lunch, the cameras rolled inside the Oval Office and President Trump did something rare. He doesn't praise easily.
It's an honor to have the Prime Minister of Italy with us, Prime Minister Meloni, who's doing a fantastic job. I would say that she has taken Europe by storm and highly respected. Everybody loves her and respects her, and I can't say that about many people. And she's become a friend, and we really have a great relationship between Italy and ourselves. And we talked about trade, we talked about many, many things during our luncheon, and she'll be saying a few words, but she's a very special person. And it's
pretty strong from him. I've got some more on Meloni in a second. Wanted to show you this first. Folks, you're having trouble sleeping, you're having some headaches and some more things going on with you physically in your body, you don't know what's going on, you probably something with your cell phones or Wi-Fi or other electronic devices like 5G causing you problems. Well, there's a product from Fix the World Morocco that will help you out. They have devices that have composites of shungite, steel, iron oxide, and brass powders, all encased in an epoxy resin. When the resin cures, it creates a piezoelectric effect that emits a field of healthy, life-preserving energy called orgone. Well, this energy field was discovered, studied by late scientist Dr. Reich, and there are fascinating studies around orgone energy that were included in the research documentation section of their website. Well, when used in your environment, the devices they created transform the harmful energy given off by electromagnetic frequencies, or EMFs, that come from 5G, your cell phones, Wi-Fi, electronic devices, into healthy, life-preserving energy. Many people have become sensitive to EMFs, which can cause a number of health issues. You got to use these products in your environment. They can protect you from EMF toxicity and help to restore a harmonious environment that aids in better health and well-being. We've got it. Folks, I'm sleeping better. I used to have pain in the middle top part of my head. It's gone since I've received these products. I have them on my phone. I have them all over my house now. It is helping me so much with pain relief, growth in plants. It actually helps with food preservation, better mental clarity, and overall calming effect. Go in the description box below, ftwproject.com/REF/532. I know that's a lot to say, but just go below this video, below the podcast, click on that link, and order your products today. Folks, you will not be disappointed. So sitting beside President Trump, Maloney continued, she laid out how closely aligned the two are on everything from migration to energy to fighting radical left ideologies. Check this out.
We both share another fight, which is the fight against the woke and ADI ideology that would like to erase our history. And as I know that we share lots of things on tackling illegal migration, on fighting against synthetic drugs. You know, Italy has been one of the nations that made a plan against fentanyl, for example. But we have been talking about many bilateral topics and things that we can do together, about defense, about economic, about space, about energy. Italy will have to increase its LNG imports, and also nuclear that we are trying to develop. I think there can be ways to work together, and the Italian enterprises will invest, as they've been doing for many years, as you know, in the next years, I think around 10 billions. That shows how interconnected our economies are.
Very interesting. The woke ideologies against illegal migration. It's a huge problem over there. Synthetic drugs. Hopefully they're working together on this because Italy needs a lot of help in that area. And then came the moment that made all the elites squirm. This, of course, is the slogan that will define their meeting. Again, we'll play this.
But at the end of the day, look, somebody calls me, I was saying it before, such a Western nationalism. I don't know if it is the right word, but I know that when I speak about West, mainly I don't speak about a geographical space. I speak about a civilization. And I want to make that civilization stronger. So I think even if we have some problems, okay, between the two shores of the Atlantic, it is the time that we try to sit down and find solutions. So I want to thank President Trump for having accepted an invitation to pay an official visit to Rome in the near future, and consider the possibility in that occasion to meet also with Europe. The goal for me is to make the West great again.
Amazing. And so that phrase, of course, is driving them crazy. Of course, the media couldn't help themselves. They tried to sabotage the entire moment by taking a cheap shot. You're not going to understand the reporter, but watch what happened.
About the definition of parasite, European. Would you say again that European are parasites?
I've never said.
Would you say again that European are parasites?
Have you said that Europeans are parasites?
Yeah.
Have you said it?
No, I haven't said. I don't know what. I don't even know what you're talking about. Go ahead, please.
He said, "You called Europeans parasites." Well, he said, "You never said that." She even told the media he never said that. And then he goes to the next person in the media. The meeting ended on an optimistic note with a clear message. The pendulum is finally swinging back on immigration. Trump unleashed on Europe's failed open border agenda. Way to go.
And I'm not a big fan of Europe and what they've done with immigration at all. And I think they got to get smart because Europe is being very badly hurt by what they've done with immigration. Now, I'll say this, that the Prime Minister has taken a very tough stand on immigration. And I commented to her before. I said, I wish more people would be like you having to do with that subject, but they're not. Europe is very important to me. Europe is very important to the world. I want Europe to do very well. I think they have to get a lot smarter on immigration.
But we are beginning doing it. You've all seen how the policies of the European Union in the last, let's say, 2.5 years have been changing. Okay, at the beginning we were talking only about how we were redistributing illegal migrants coming to Italy. Now we are talking mainly about how to stop illegal migration, work with the countries of origin and transit, and to return people. The European Commission just did the new rules about repatriations and things like that. So things are changing, thanks also to the example that Italy brought in lowering the rates of illegal migration. So we are working now together. So I'm optimistic on that.
Good. I hope so.
He said, I hope so. Doesn't seem like he's fully believing her, but he hopes so. And so, are you worried China is growing closer with American allies?
You said in the past that you aren't worried about allies growing closer to China as a result of your tariffs. And this week we saw Chinese President Xi Jinping visit with 3 of our allies. Should you be worried that they're growing closer?
No.
Will you pick up the phone?
Nobody can compete with us. Nobody.
You said that you have a good relationship with President Xi. Why not pick up the phone and call him and make a deal?
Oh, we're going to make a deal. We'll have a deal. I think we're going to make a very good deal with China.
Do you plan to reach out to him and call him?
Not worried at all. So moving on to our next portion of this broadcast, again, is getting into the mRNA jabs. John Arnold said the market is losing faith that mRNA will be transformative tech. Moderna's enterprise value is lower today than at the end of 2019. There was great hope that the tech would transfer from COVID vaccines to treat flu, cancer, and rare diseases. But none of that has borne out yet. So listen to this, RFK Jr. listening to his phone. President Trump.
I want to do small doses. Small doses. When you feed a baby, Bobby, a vaccination that is like 38 different vaccines, and it looks like it's meant for a horse, not a 10-pound or 20-pound baby. It looks like you should be giving a horse this. And do you ever see the size of it? Right? It's just massive. And then you see the baby all of a sudden starting to change radically. I've seen it too many times. And then you hear that it doesn't have an impact, right? But you and I talked about that a long time ago. And anyway, I would.
So President Trump said we give babies like 38 different vaccines, and it looks like it's meant for a horse. And then you see the babies all starting to change radically. We were given this information by Dr. Anthony Phan. Autism didn't exist in Vietnam until Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation.
We need to wake up. Medical doctors need to wake up. Going back to Vietnam, Vietnam doesn't have anything. There's no such thing as autism in 1975, in year 2001. There's no such thing. When Vietnam signed the WHO, when Vietnam signed into the International Monetary Fund, the banking system, Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation introduced the vaccination program into Vietnam. Now Vietnam has over a 300% rise in autism.
Bill Gates shows up, autism shoots through the roof. Julie Donuts, vaccine manufacturers know. She says the doctors know, hospitals know, CDC knows. The National Institute of Health knows, WHO knows, lobbyists know, politicians know. They all know vaccines cause autism. They knew this whole time. They lied, they bullied, and got filthy rich doing so. They'll all fall evil demons. Another part that I said that somebody responded to her and said, now we all know. Julie Donuts replied, yes, that's right. You know, these big pharma companies get to show up at the FDA to make decisions. Well, that's all changing, according to Makari.
Well, we have to do two things. Number one is we have to partner with industry and pharma to facilitate the process, to make it user-friendly and expeditious. We shouldn't be in a receive-only mode. We want American pharma companies to do well and companies that do business in the United States to do well. But the scientific evaluation needs to be independent. And that's why today we're announcing we are removing industry members, pharma members from FDA advisory committees. I was shocked when I learned that employees of big pharma companies sit on FDA advisory committees as members of those committees. So we're going to be replacing them whenever statutorily possible with patients and family caregivers. We are going to be inviting pharma companies to send representatives to the advisory committees, but they can sit with the rest of the public and watch and pose questions as the rest of the American public can.
You know, RFK Jr. completely shattered the media's favorite lie about autism. Vigilant Fox put this together. It started with a bombshell revealing from Kennedy's own childhood. Hannity asked, what was the number when you were a kid, and what do you think is going on? Kennedy replied, there's really good data on that. He pointed to one of the largest studies ever conducted, 900,000 children in Wisconsin, published in a top-tier medical journal. It looked at 900,000 kids. It was published in a high gravitas journal, peer-reviewed study, and they found the rate to be 0.7 out of 10,000. That's less than 1 in 10,000. Today, it's around 1 in 36. Let that sink in. That's when Kennedy sounded the alarm on what's happening now and why it's so catastrophic. He said the rise isn't just in frequency, it's in severity. 2 years ago, it was 1 in 36. The CDC data we released this week shows 1 in 31. California is seeing the worst of it. The worst state is California, he said, which actually has the best collection methodologies. So they actually probably reflect what we're seeing nationwide. In California, it's 1 in every 20 kids, 1 in every 12.5 boys. Even worse, he said the numbers are likely underreported in minority communities. Quote, if you look at the minority numbers, which we don't do very well, it's much worse. And for many kids, the symptoms are devastating. Quote, about 25% of the population of that, kids with autism, about 25% of them are nonverbal, non-toilet trained. They have all these stereotypical behaviors, the head banging, biting, toe walking, stimming, and that population is growing higher and higher. It's becoming a larger percentage, so we're seeing much more, many more cases that are now linked to severe intellectual disability. He said it's a glaring red warning sign. It's past time to start acting on it. It was at this moment that Kennedy took a flamethrower to the media narrative about autism. He shattered the core excuse we've all been fed, says the Vigilant Fox, that this epidemic isn't real. It's just a change in how we count it. He's not buying it. The media has bought into the industry canard, this mythology that we're just seeing more autism because we're noticing it more. We're better at recognizing it, or there's been changing diagnostic criteria. But the scientific literature, he said, says otherwise. There's a study after study in the scientific literature going back, and they decided that the literature going back says decades that says that's not true. Then he cited a major investigation by California's own lawmakers. In fact, California legislator in 2013 asked the Mind Institute at UC Davis to look exactly at that topic. They said, is it real, or are we just noticing it more? The Mind Institute came back and said, absolutely, this is a real epidemic. This is something we've never seen before. And then RFK Jr. made it perfectly clear and painfully clear. Anybody with common sense, Sean, he was talking to Sean Hannity, would notice that because the autism, this epidemic is only happening in our children. It's not happening in people who are our age. And if it was better recognition, you'd see it in 70-year-old men, but we don't. After laying out the data, dismantling the media narrative, and exposing the severity of the crisis, Kennedy concluded with the clarion call to get to the bottom of this epidemic. That's why he says it's time to dig deeper. President Trump asked me to find out what's going on, what's causing it, he told Hannity. I'm approaching that agnostically. We're looking at everything. He's farming the research out to top institutions across the country. We're going to farm the studies out to 15 premier research groups from all over the country, he said. The list of possible factors is long. Nothing's being ruled out. For the first time in decades, someone is asking the hard questions and demanding real answers. This time, nothing's off limits. That's so good to see. There's victory. Conservatives just defeated the House leadership attempt to force us to honor Planned Parenthood today.
Members, I'm going to do my best to remain calm, but it's hard for me to put into words how outraged I am about this amendment. And I think I speak on behalf of the millions of Texans who elected their governments to do what their government has done. This body, the Senate, the governor, lieutenant governor, Texas is a pro-life state. And my colleagues who have spoken before me have done a fantastic job articulating the laws we have passed that evidence the fact that Texas values life and is a pro-life state. But by putting this resolution to honor Planned Parenthood on today's calendar, this might represent one of the biggest betrayals of the voters of Texas that has ever occurred in this chamber. And I mean that. I mean it sincerely. The voters sent us to Texas to fight for the things that matter to them and to represent their values. Protecting innocent life might be one of the values that the voters of the state of Texas prioritize above all. But by putting this resolution to honor a Planned Parenthood president, not just the fact that we're doing it, but when we are doing it, says something about our priorities of this chamber that do not reflect the priorities of our voters. This resolution today is being taken up before we have done the things that do matter to our voters. We have not yet taken up a single bill to even discuss the elimination of property taxes. We're putting Planned Parenthood ahead of that. By putting this resolution today, we are putting Planned Parenthood ahead
for what
of
purpose?
ending the
Mr. Speaker, will the gentleman yield for questions?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Not at this time.
No, the gentleman does not yield for questions at this time.
By putting this resolution on our calendar today, we are honoring Planned Parenthood ahead of ending taxpayer-funded DEI. We are putting Planned Parenthood ahead of ending taxpayer-funded transgender ideology at our state agencies and our public universities. And I want to clarify something that was made because there were some grotesque misrepresentations that happened on that microphone. They need to be cleared up. There is only one way to vote for or against this resolution, and that's to push the little button on your desk. And so when this comes up, you only have one option. And let me be very clear, if you push the little green button that has the word yes under it, if you push the button yes, and your name on that board lights up green, you are honoring Planned Parenthood, and you are honoring the president of Planned Parenthood, and you are doing that irrespective of any notation that you make in the journal. Notations in the journal have nothing to do with your votes. They cannot change a vote, not at this time. There are going to be some good
Flores, for what
not at this
purpose?
time. I'm going to wrap up.
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Not at this time.
The gentleman
respectfully.
yield at this time.
There are some good things on today's calendar that will die if enough of us vote no, as we should all do. There are some things that I wanted to vote yes for, and I'm sure there are things you want to vote yes for. But I want to be very clear about when those things die today, as they should. The people responsible for them not passing are not those of us who want to protect the honor of the unborn and stop a resolution from honoring Planned Parenthood. The people responsible for good things on today's calendar not passing are the leadership of this body. And that is where you should have fixed your blame. And I'm going to just close by saying, this is a disgrace to this body. This is a disgrace to this chamber. And Speaker Burrows, shame on you for letting this happen. And
Ms.
Chairman
Flores,
Patterson,
for what purpose?
shame on
Brian Harrison put that out. Bravery. True bravery came here and was honored. Finally, U.S. Marine showed this Medal of Honor recipient, Dakota Meyer, re-enlisted today in a ceremony hosted by Secretary of Defense and attended by U.S. Marine Corps Sergeant Major and the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, in the Hall of Heroes at the Pentagon. Sergeant Meyer is the only living Medal of Honor recipient currently serving in the United States Marine Corps Semper Fi. President Trump continued to sign executive orders just restored commercial fishing on over 500,000 square miles of U.S. Pacific waters.
Do this, right? That's an honor.
When he signs this, listen to what happens in his office.
You've seen that signature, and I don't use auto pen. You know, like Biden. Biden uses auto pen. I think
They finally get to go fishing again. And he has been honored, President Trump, after they were done singing. Check this out.
Royalty in our culture.
So does that mean I'm royalty?
You are royalty. You are royalty.
So those are listening in. He basically is called royalty. And they're so excited. President Trump says, bring me a tuna when you're done with all this. This is one of the great moments that many people don't realize. Think Deadliest Catch and how many other shows, how the fishing industry works starting from the beginning, catching the fish. You know, I was thinking about that because Deadliest Catch to me is one of the greatest shows. If you really want to watch true sports, that's a good one. It's unbelievable. I love that show and feel like I'm part of their family. But those guys have been through a lot this past 4 or 5 years. And the amount of times that they have to make changes because they come in, the government, and says, you're not allowed to catch certain type of crab this year. Well, that's what they depend on, what their life depends on. Well, then we start finding out that these fisheries were actually going to other countries to get what they needed, depriving American businesses of their ability to fish out of the certain waters. Anyway, probably not related to the specific one, but still, there's a lot that goes on with these regulations. Ninth Gen Am said, I asked the man behind the counter why all our fish came from overseas when we live in a coastal state. Regulations was his answer. It's what we've been up against. Remember this also. The world's about to realize that Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and Dior are just rebranded Shenzhen factory products. The luxury illusion is about to collapse. What a time to be alive. These thousands of dollars that people pay for these cheap $20 purses, and they're paying $2,000, $3,000 for them. Check out this thing.
Louis Vuitton and Chanel will hate me if I tell you this, revealing the secret behind big brand. Let's go. Hang Long from Singapore, or Bodin rugs for their lambskin from France.
So it's hard to understand her. So I'm going to say, basically, she's saying, look, you want to get Louis Vuitton? Look, it's right here in Singapore. Do you want bonjour from their lambskin from France? I hope I said it right. Anyway, it's there in Singapore. For Chanel, look at that. It's Hong Kong. Tener Haas. For Hermes, Paris. Italian Tannery Faida, Faida. For Chloe, La Britannia, Fendi. Guess where I found all these secret suppliers? I found them in Hong Kong. And a lot of these little commercials are popping up on X where China's saying, look, you want these products, you can come to us now. Other things that are playing out for all of us to take notice of is the issues regarding transgenders, these males pretending to be females. And I wanted to get a couple more of these clips out.
My first experience was when I was 13 years old. I was going to change for gym, and I walked into the locker room, and there was a biological male there. From that point on, my junior year, I competed in Nordic skiing and lost to a biological male numerous of times. I am fighting this fight for generations to come. And the fact that our governor can look the women of our state in the eyes and say, I'm not going to fight for you, is heartbreaking, and it's betrayal, like Riley said. I just want to thank all these women standing behind me and President Trump for fighting for us, because even though my own governor isn't fighting for me, I know there are people out there fighting for me.
So I compete in soccer and indoor track and outdoor track. And like was mentioned previously today, I had to watch at the main Class B state indoor track championship as my close friend and my teammate and other female competitors lost the state championship to a biological male. And this was heartbreaking for me to have to watch. And Riley said that it's betrayal, and that's what it is. It is the job of our elected officials to protect our young female athletes, and they have failed to do that. We walk into sports expecting to have a level playing field, and to walk into the state championship to see a biological male there and to lose to a biological male, that's betrayal. And so I am extremely grateful to AG Bondi for standing up for us when our elected officials aren't doing that. And on behalf of the girl athletes in Maine, I just want to say thank you all, and I look forward to having a level playing field back after this fight. So thank you.
Pretty amazing. Of course, the media has to ask stupid questions.
So Maine's governor yesterday said there were maybe at most 2 trans athletes in Maine schools right now. I just was hoping you could talk a little bit about the sort of amount of federal resources that you're putting into this and why that's worth it given the small impact in Maine.
I haven't heard Janet Mills comment. Governor Mills said it's only a couple trans athletes. Well, I think those are boys who identify as girls wanting to beat girls in girls' sports. Well, if one young woman is in jeopardy, one, that's enough for us to be standing up here. One, no boy will be undressing in a girl's locker room. No boy will be walking in a woman's restroom. And no boy, when we're finished with this, will be beating young girls in sports. These young women many of them have trained, since you were in elementary school for your sport? Riley, when did you start swimming? 4 years old. They have trained their entire lives. Some of them have lost scholarships. They have lost regionals. They have lost state because of boys. I don't care if it's 1. I don't care if it's 2. I don't care if it's 100. It's going to stop, and it's going to stop in every single state.
You get them. That's how you do it. Going to the school side, Texas House just passed universal school choice. The vote was 85-63. The Senate already passed a similar bill, 19-12. Texas will be the 16th state to pass universal school choice. This is the way you're looking at the other schools that have that in red on your screen. 21 Texas House Republicans joined them, right? About 40% of America's school-age population now lives in states that have passed universal school choice policies. Big moves making in our schools. Folks have had enough. President Trump signed a new executive order, 250th anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord. He said from the White House, "Now therefore I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim April 19th, 2025 as a day in commemoration of the 250th anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord and the beginning of the American Revolutionary War." I feel like we're in those battles once again, and that recognition comes straight to us from the Q board, reminding us, March 28th, 2020, on post 3907, the entire world is watching. Patriots from around the world are praying for America. We are all bound by a feeling deep inside, a feeling that cannot be publicly expressed for fear of ridicule, a feeling that challenges the mainstream narrative against that which we are told to accept and dare not question. Put simply, that people are being abused by those in power, and time is running out. Remember the battles of Lexington and Concord. Give me liberty or give me death. For far too long, we have been silent and allowed our bands of strength that we once formed to defend freedom and liberty to deteriorate. We became divided. We became weak. We elected traitors to govern us. We allowed evil to prey on us. Those who claimed to represent us gave us false hope, made false promises, and the evil and corruption only grew. This is more than party politics. It's about restoring old glory, saving our land and our people from those who wish us harm. It's about preserving our republic, our safety, our strength. It's about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's about protecting our children, saving America, We're all God's children. We're fathers, mothers, daughters, sons, brothers, sisters. We don't look at race. We don't look at skin color. We're united in these states of America. We are and will always be patriots. We must rise again. We must unite again, fight again for God and country. God bless America. Where we go one, we go all. Q.
For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, how wonderful you are to us. You brought a revival beyond anything that we could even imagine. We prayed for it, thought it was supposed to be inside of buildings, but it's happening inside of our very souls throughout America, throughout this entire earth. Many are turning to the truth of the Word of God through all the turmoil, and we thank you for this. You know exactly how to test man's souls and get them to recognize your Son, who died on the cross, rose again after 3 days. And we remember that as we go into this weekend. What a memorable time for all of us to say, oh, do you receive the honor and glory that's due you? You gave your only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. What a change that has made throughout this earth. Didn't need a castle to do it, to rule. How amazing. How amazing that we have the ability today to have the resources today, to have the strength now, to provide information that brings truth, and then that truth brings power to the masses to finally have a revolution that's happening throughout this earth. We ask you continue to guide and direct us, our souls, our minds, our very tongues, and the things that we say. We certainly need you. We need your protection. All of those on the front lines need protection. Maloney needs protection from Italy. I mean, these folks that are standing up, you see them, you understand it. And we ask that these mighty angels that you've been putting around all of them will be shown someday to these folks, to give them a renewed strength of knowing the power that's behind them, the power of our almighty Heavenly Father. We ask all this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, Yeshua. Amen and amen. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you have a great weekend. What a great time to be alive. Thank you for your prayers for me, especially my physical health. Has been pretty rough this week. Got through it. Took a lot of different things that we actually promote on this show, and it's man, it really pays off. And so again, you're in our hearts and minds, and we are just going through this with you. Man, looking forward to the end of it, aren't you? For now, this is LT saying Semper Fi, with him we know. Signing out.
And his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him.
There should be no fear. We are protected, and we will always be protected. We will be protected by the great men and women of our military and law enforcement. And most importantly, we will be protected by God.